Hi, this is Linda of Windy Oaks, and I just wanted to talk to you about what I'm working on right now. Right now, I am hand combing some of my Shetland fleece from my ewe, Hekate. I wanted to show you some of the lessons I've learned in hand combing and a little bit about my process of what I'm doing. So, as with any yarn, it starts with the fleece. You can tell this is not the highest quality fleece in that it is full of VM or vegetable matter, like hay and seeds and stuff. And the other thing is, where's the piece I was looking at? It's got these things that we call cotted tips, C-O-T-T-E-D tips. So Shetlands are a primitive breed of sheep, and they actually still, some of them, will still shed their fleece naturally. Not all of them do. Mine sort of do in patches. It's really not a full thing, and that's why you shear them. You cut it off because it won't all fall off. Well, this is a little bit of the previous year's fleece that after it had been shorn, after it had been cut here, there was still this little bit, and then she started to rue, but she didn't rue entirely. So that little bit of fleece from last year felted on to the tips of the New Year's fleece. So that's a cotted tip. And the cotted tips are one of the reasons I didn't send this fleece to a mill. A mill, it sounds counterintuitive, but the messier and more difficult your fleece, the less a mill wants it. You can do amazing things with a fleece that looks like this by hand, where a mill might even just throw the whole fleece out. One of the other problems with this fleece is that we sheared way too late in the year last year. We sheared in early May. The lambs had already been born, which causes stress on the ewe and causes breaks in the fleece. And when Shetlands rue, R-O-O if I didn't spell it earlier, when they rue, there's a line of lanolin that's very thick. That's called the rise. And that makes it very hard to shear through. So the girls were going through the rise at the same time as having had the stress of pregnancy in lambs. And so the shearer had a really hard time shearing our girls. So there are pieces of very different lengths in this fleece. Some of them are really short. Some of them are as long as her fleece tends to be. And this is a fleece that requires hand processing. So anyway, I am working on this fleece, and I'm using hand combs. These are combs. I think these are Viking style, but they're indigo hounds, which I was really lucky to get them used. They are wonderful combs. I just absolutely love them. But it takes a little bit of practice to get the kind of prepared fleece that you want using these combs. If you notice, this is one of my first attempts at it, and you can see there are, if I can get it to show up on camera, this is a little section where it's really short, and I'm not sure, I think I pulled it out earlier, but there was still quite a bit of VM, especially as you draft it out. You find that see right there is a piece that's hiding in there, and there's a piece. There's also, I can feel it, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, a little lump of a nep there. Anyway, and this is a later piece. There's still little bits of VM, but they're much smaller pieces, and they fall out as they are drafted for spinning. All right, sorry about that. Dogus interruptus. The puppy was trying to get into trouble there. So I'm not sure quite where I left off, but there's little bits of VM that are much smaller, and they're easy to pull out when you're spinning. But more importantly, there's none of those neps and noils, those little lumps of different sized fleece, different sized pieces. And you get a much smoother yarn with this one. Now, just for the record, the color variation is just her fleece. That has nothing to do with the preparations. It's just this one's more gray and that one's more black. So here's how I did the difference. When I first started combing, I just grabbed hunks of fleece and put them on the combs. And on top of that, I tried to keep every single fiber I could because I was afraid of wasting it. So even though I would look at the combs and I would say, oh my gosh, there's so much waste on here, and I would try to work it in. Well, that didn't work. I really didn't like the fiber that I was getting out of that. So instead, what I've been doing is I've been pulling locks, and these are slightly organized, but I've been pulling locks and keeping them, anything that's shorter than a couple inches goes into the waste bag. Now the waste bag here, I'm keeping it, so I'm not tossing it. There's a lot of VM in here. I may or may not use this. I might put this on the drum carder and see what kind of yarn I get, pulling out a lot of the VM as much as I can before I do. But it's not necessarily wasted. I might use it in the garden. I might use it for stuffing, something like that. But what I don't want is I don't want that in my yarn, because it's just going to make for a lumpy yarn. The next thing I do is I do more passes than I think I want to. So it feels like after maybe 2 or 3 passes, oh, you've got something fluffy. But I notice that 3 or 4 passes is where I get a smooth consistency. Now your mileage is going to vary on that depending on what kind of fleece you're doing, how messy it is, etc. If you have a fleece that's in a little bit better condition than this one, you might do better. But let me see if I can do this while also holding the camera here. But I'm just going to take some of this fleece, and let's see here. I don't know if I can do this one-handedly, but I've got the tip end here. You can see because it's a little bit faded from the sun, and that lighter brown. And I'm just going to load it on here. And again, this goes much more quickly and easily with 2 hands. So when you have it loaded on, and of course you'd put a whole lot more fiber on there, the first pass is going to be a hot mess because not everything was loaded evenly. I do still have some different lengths of fleece, etc. The second pass is going to be where it all comes together. And then the third and fourth are going to be where I'm getting the last of the icky stuff out. I'm really getting everything about the same length, etc. So that's what I'm doing to go from this, which is kind of, you can see like little lumps of fleece here, the big lump there, the lumps there, to this, which is smooth and spins out like a dream. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. I hope that it gives you a little bit of information about what to look for when you are hand combing a fleece. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch. Please don't forget to click like. And if you want to see more spinning and fiber animal videos, please hit subscribe. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day.